Mark Leno. And Mark, your initial reaction to his decision today?
Well, I think it's very clear that this is a despicable act by a very desperate bully. He's been beaten up by his right flank for being so disagreeable with his attorney, Jeff Sessions, who's popular with the far right. He's trying to change the subject, which he's done very successfully, by finding a scapegoat. Don't look at my problem over here. Don't look at my failure on health care. Don't look at my failure on infrastructure. Don't look at my failure with my Muslim ban. Look at the transgender problem in our military, which, as you have already shown tonight, does not exist. With regard to the cost, he says the astronomical costs that this will impose on the military. In fact, the Rand Institute did a study, and the approximate cost of transgender health benefits in our military today is about $8 million out of a $6.2 billion health care budget in the military. That's 0.13%. It's 1/5 of what the military spends on Viagra, about a $40 million cost compared to the $8 million cost for transgender health benefits, and $83 million for the military for all erectile dysfunction medications. So this is a completely fraudulent argument, as was the president's tweet itself. He said, after consulting with his military leaders and experts, in fact, he consulted with no one. And I can prove that because when the Pentagon was asked to respond, they said, talk to the White House, because they knew nothing about it. They had no statement prepared because he'd not given them a heads up, nor did the White House have any heads up he was going to do this. This is a desperate, angry man waking up this morning, frustrated that he was having trouble with his Attorney General and with every aspect of the chaos in his administration, and he found a new scapegoat. He's done it to Mexicans, he's done it to Muslims, he's done it to women, he's done it to immigrants, even refugees leaving dangerous home countries looking for safety. He's beat up on them, as well as disabled people. So this is pure Donald Trump. The walls are closing in on him because he knows all of his lies regarding contact with the Russians, and his very likely, now admitted by his own son, collusion with the Russians to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. Colluding with the enemy is likely treason, and his obstruction of justice, which is reason for impeachment, when he fired Robert Comey. This is the context in which he sent out that tweet. This has nothing to do with transgender people in the military. There's even a more interesting backstory in that there was a debate going on in the Republican conference in the House of Representatives. A defense appropriation bill was stalled because the moderates didn't want to cut transgender health benefits from that appropriation bill, and the hawks and the conservatives in the Republican caucus did want it cut, and they were overruled by the moderates, and it failed on the floor of the House of Representatives. They went directly to Defense Secretary Mattis to get his help. He said, listen, I'm gathering facts. I will be ready at the end of the year to determine if there's a military readiness concern with transgender people or if there's a cost concern, and I will make this decision at the end of the year. These hawk Republicans and far-right conservatives weren't happy with that, so they went directly to the president, and there is a report today in the Washington Post that indicates that Steve Bannon gave the president encouragement, and he didn't just cut health benefits, he cut them out altogether, which is equivalent to saying that there's a candle that we need to put out on the table, and the president, in fact, lit the whole table on fire.
Yeah, Mark, you're bringing up some of the reaction that we've heard from other people. Before I let you go, really quickly, do you see this as a reversal of the president's commitment on the campaign trail to protect the LGBTQ community?
It's a perfect question. Like so many other things, it's a complete reversal. Just like he was going to provide universal health care, and he wasn't going to cut Medicaid, and he wasn't going to cut Medicare, and he's doing exactly that now. I remember a speech where he said he would be the champion of LGBTQ rights, and Hillary Clinton was our enemy. And of course, here we are today. The man is a compulsive liar. You cannot believe anything he says. And this is just one more thing, though. He has picked on the wrong group of Americans. You know, a definition of first-class citizenship is the right to serve in the military.
Right.
Slaves historically could never serve in the military. These people are tax-paying Americans. They should be treated as first-class citizens.
Okay,
like
we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to have to leave it there, Mark. Always appreciate your time. Thank you very much.